Hey everyone, I'm Alan Thrall here at Untamed Strength Gym in Sacramento, California, and in this video I'm going to be talking about supersets. A superset is when you take two exercises, perform them back to back for one consecutive set, one big set, one superset. For example, you might do 10 bicep curls followed immediately by 10 tricep press downs. That's one superset. You would rest and then perform your second superset. If you were to do two exercises, 3 sets of each exercise done as a superset, it would look like this here, how you see on the screen. Back in April of this year, I started following a program by Natural Hypertrophy who utilizes supersets exclusively. Every exercise is supersetted with another exercise, at least in this program in particular. And I gotta say that I am hooked. I really like it. And I wanna share with you some benefits, but most notably some considerations to make before incorporating supersets for yourself. The concept of supersets is not new to me, however, my implementation was different. When I did use supersets, I did it as a way to make things more difficult, to increase the suck factor. So I might superset something like barbell squats and squat jumps, goblet squats, superset with lunges, bench press, superset push-ups, deadlifts, superset back extensions, rows, superset band pull-aparts. So I want you to take a second to think, what about these supersets, these exercises, stands out to you? That's right. Each exercise is working the same muscle groups, or at least the same patterns, back to back. This makes each set much more difficult than if you were to separate the sets and do them on their own with a rest period in between each set. Doing supersets like this does have value, particularly for sports performance. Squatting followed immediately by running, followed by jumping, performed back to back to back, might have value if you're training for basketball or if you're a football player. Doing deadlifts, rows, and back extensions might be good if you are a strongman competitor, because you are going to have to prepare yourself for 90 seconds of continuous work, 90-second medleys where you do deadlifts for reps, followed immediately by farmer's carry, followed by a keg carry. All of this stuff back to back to back. Your training needs to push the limits of lactic acid threshold. CrossFitters need the endurance to perform similar movements back to back. For example, deadlifts and rower, handstand push-ups, and medicine ball overhead throws. So supersetting two exercises working the same muscle groups might help you if your goal is to build endurance for sports performance. But if you're not interested in that and you just want to build some muscle or strength, there's a better, more efficient way to incorporate and implement supersets into your routine. Two exercises done as a superset will always be opposing muscle groups or antagonistic muscle groups. The most obvious example would be biceps and triceps. The bicep controls elbow flexion, the tricep controls elbow extension. So it makes sense to group these together and superset these movements. You could also think about antagonistic movement patterns. So a vertical press, like an overhead press, superset with a vertical pull, like a pull-up or a lat pull-down. A horizontal press, like a bench press or a push-up, supersetted with a horizontal pull, like a dumbbell row or a chest-supported row. Knee extension, like a leg extension machine, superset with knee flexion, a hamstring leg curl machine. These supersets don't always have to be big compound movements superset with other big compound movements, or smaller isolation movements supersetted only with smaller isolation movements. You could do that, but you can also mix and match. So you might think, well, squats work my quads and Romanian deadlifts work my hamstrings. Boom, perfect superset. It might be a good superset on paper, but in practice, it's incredibly difficult to maintain a high level of performance or a high level of effort with two very big, taxing compound movements. Personally, I enjoy supersetting big compound movements like squats and deadlifts with smaller flexion movements like neck flexion or abs. Squats and deadlifts are knee extension, hip extension movements. You're trying to stand up, whereas ab training is a hip flexion movement. So these two movements work well together. And doing abs or neck in between my sets of squats is no sweat off my brow. Doing ab work does not affect my leg work at all. Supersets are also a great way to add frequency of smaller movements because they can be added to any available slot throughout the week. Now, I've already mentioned neck flexion and neck extension, so I'll use those as an example. These movements in particular can be superset with any other movement throughout the week. You could also add calves, arms, or maybe forearms throughout your weekly routine without it negatively affecting the other movements that you're supersetting it with. Rather than trying to lump together all of that training onto 2 days, maybe just 2 upper body days, you could spread that out to 3 days a week, or maybe even to 4 days per week. I superset Romanian deadlifts with dumbbell lateral raises, which seems sort of odd, hamstrings and shoulders, but it actually makes sense if you think about it. When I'm doing a Romanian deadlift, there is some shoulder extension happening because I'm trying to keep the bar close to my body. I'm using my lats to prevent it from swinging out away from me. And as I come up, I am pulling the bar close to my body to get some more lat engagement. So there's some shoulder extension happening. And then I would superset that with a form of shoulder flexion, raising my arm. It's more abduction, doing a dumbbell lateral raise. Those terms don't matter. What I'm saying is they sync well together. Supersetting will save you time in the gym, but that's actually not its sole purpose. I make a lot of content about saving time in the gym, but truth be told, doing supersets is not going to take 2 hours of work and magically condense it down into 30 minutes of work. Supersets, however, will allow you to get more work done in the same amount of time. And that's within your daily routine or even your weekly routine. If you're trying to do 10 to 20 sets per body part per week, or if you're more of a strength focused person and you focus more on sets of movement per week, let's say you do 8 to 12 sets of squats, bench, and deadlift per week. If each of those sets has its own rest period, its own 3 to 4, 5 minute rest period, it's going to take a long time. By supersetting, you can cut your total rest time for a training session or in a week by half at most. More realistically, I would guess you'd cut your rest time by about a third. Beyond that, a time-saving benefit to supersets and giant sets is increased focus. If I'm performing exercise A, and then exercise B, and then I'm resting for a short period of time, thinking about my next set of exercise A, I don't get bored. I don't lose focus. If I sit down for 5 minutes after a set of squats, and especially if I have my phone nearby, I'm gonna get distracted, I'm gonna lose my focus. Supersets keep me engaged in the entire workout. Now, there are no hard rules to supersetting. You can organize and structure your routine however you want based on your own preferred split or maybe equipment availability in your gym. Also, the layout of your gym. There are times when I'll lump together 2 exercises just because it's easy to do both exercises in the same rack or in the same spot at the gym. I won't do a superset if it's on this side of the gym and way over here on that side of the gym if the gym's busy, so I can structure it accordingly. For instance, right now I've been doing decline dumbbell skull crushers. As soon as I'm done with my set, I'll drop the bells and I'll do decline sit-ups. Seamless transition. The only rule I would follow is to not group together 2 exercises if there's a noticeable drop in performance on either of those exercises. I'm not going to superset my squats and deadlifts. I'm not going to superset Atlas stone loads and barbell clean and press for obvious reasons. People who are skeptical of supersets, first off, you don't have to if you don't want to, but they'll often say that they are worried they're going to be winded if they don't have a dedicated 3, 4, or 5 minutes after each working set. Yes, if you are very out of shape, there's going to be a noticeable drop in performance once you start doing supersets. But if you really want to get better, if you really want to get in shape, like anything, you'll adapt if you stick to it for long enough. I would argue that for myself, supersetting my exercises saves energy and it increases performance. Crazy, I know. So when I get to the gym, I have this running internal clock. After about 90 minutes, my energy starts to dwindle a bit. My focus starts to slip, my excitement to train has slightly worn off, and I'm just ready to switch gears and move on because I'm sorry, but I got shit to do. So let's say this was my workout. I had 3 rounds of overhead press superset with pull-ups, 3 rounds of dips superset with dumbbell rows, and 3 rounds of dumbbell curls superset dumbbell French press. I'm just making this workout up. If I eliminated the supersets and I separated everything, I would switch from 9 supersets to 18 total sets. It's the same amount of total work, but the 18 sets would obviously take much longer. Supersets allow me to get more work in, they keep me engaged and focused, they keep my effort at tip-top quality. Maybe they'll do the same for you. That's it, thanks for watching, and always remember, train on time!